Hello, sixth graders. Today we're going to be reasoning with angle measures. And what this basically means is we're going to be finding the measures of angles without having to measure them. But we're going to follow some rules here. There's some key vocabulary you're going to have to know. There's going to be something called supplementary angles. That's when two angles whose measures add up to 180. Supplementary angles do not need to be adjacent angles. Okay? It's okay. Vertical or opposite angles. These angles are made by intersecting lines that do not share a common side. Vertical angles have equal measures. In the diagram, angles 2 and 4 are a pair of vertical angles. They have the same measure. And 1 and 3 are vertical angles. So whatever, if this is like, I don't know, 95, then this would be 95, okay? Adjacent angles, two angles with a common side and vertex do not overlap in the diagram, and the vertex that do not otherwise overlap. In the diagram, angles 1 and 2 are adjacent angles. Angles 2 and 3, angles 3 and 4, and angles 4 and 1 are also adjacent. Adjacent angles are touching. 4 and 1, 4 and 3, 3 and 2, 1 and 2. So how I've taught kids in the past, vertical angles, so it's like if you have a friend named Vicky, Vicky lives directly across the street from you. That'd be Vicky. Vicky lives directly across the street. And your friend Addie, adjacent, Addie lives right next door. Okay? Vertical, adjacent. Don't worry about it. So here we're going to take a look here. We have to find out what y is. We have an angle here, so we have 60. We know this, and we got to find out what y is. We're going to be using a calculator today. That's no problem at all. But this is what we have to realize. We have a straight line here. And what we know in math is a straight line is worth 180 degrees. If we know 60 of these degrees, we're simply just going to subtract 180 minus 60. Okay, I guess I'll have to work that out. 180 minus 60 equals 120. Y would be 120. If you think about it, 60 plus 120 equals 180, which would be a straight line. So y is 120. Here's another one. Now we have x here, and 50 is adjacent to x, 15 is adjacent to x, but they're still all on this straight line. So this is what we know. 50 plus 15 equals 65. But what do we do with this 65? We have to take 180 and subtract 65 from it. Right? So let's take, where'd my calculator go? 180 minus 65 equals 115 is my answer. You're probably wondering, how are you able to do that? Because 50 plus 115 plus 15 equals 180. So x has to be 115. Here's another one here. Now we're dealing with some vertical angles and some adjacent angles and some supplementary angles. 45 is a vertical angle to A. So we already know that A is 45. Okay? But what we have to realize and look for now is a straight line. These are two straight lines. And what we know about straight lines is whatever, I better put a 45 up here so we don't get confused. C plus A equals 180 because a straight line is worth 180. So I have to do 180 minus 45. 180 minus 45. 135 is my answer. So C is 135. If C is 135, then T is 135 because T is a vertical angle of C. Done. Pretty easy. Here's a fun problem. So now we have to find what Q, R, and S equal. Well, let's take a look. So you're kind of like a mystery person right now, right? 70 is a vertical angle with S, so that means S is 70. This we know. That's a pretty easy one, okay? Here's another thing we know. Whenever we see a fancy box like this in the corner, that equals 90 degrees. So we have that done. Down here, we have a straight line. 60 and Q, when you add them up, equal 180. So what is 180 minus 60. It's 120. Okay, so if we know 70, we know 90, we know 120, which is Q. How can we find out what R equals? This is what one little trick for you. A quadrangle. Quadrangle. There we go. All the sides in a quadrangle equal 360. Okay. And there's some different methods to know on that, but that's one thing you have to realize, that all the sides in a four-sided shape, when you add them all up, they equal 360. So we're going to take the three numbers we know, 70, 90, and 120, and we're going to add them up quickly. We're going to go 70 plus 90 plus 120. We have 280. So if I have 360 minus 280, that equals 80 degrees. Keep watching. Does that make sense? That looks like it is less than 90, 80. Perfect. Done. Ooh, next problem. Ooh, this problem. It looks crazy, it looks confusing, but we can just kind of break it apart as we go. It's kind of, I really think these are a lot of fun. So let's take a look here. We got a vertical angle, so these are opposite. So G is 80. So I'm going to put an 80 up here. Because G is an 80, I'm going to go ahead and write 80 over here for G. Okay. What's another thing we know? We know that B is worth 60. Put a 60 in there for B. We know that F is worth, we're not sure what F is yet. We know that D is worth 40. So any other ones we know? We don't. But this is a straight line here. So that means 80 plus H equals 180 because it's a straight line. And that's easy math. That's 100. Right? H is worth 100. So if H is worth 100, that means I, which is a vertical angle, is also equal to 100. Let's do the math here. We have 40, and what would F be? Well, what's 180 minus 40? It is 140. So if F is 140, F is 140 over here. Take a look here. And if F is 140, that means E has to be 140. Look at how we break this apart. 60 and C, when you add them up, equals 180. So that means C has to be 120. And if C is 120, A has to be 120. That is how you solve a problem that looks complicated, but using those vertical angles really helps out. The supplementary angles that equal 180, adjacent angles are touching, perfect. Let's see another problem. Oh, this one looks like fun. Okay, I'm gonna have to use a calculator. What are some givens? Well, we know T is 105. If T is 105, because it is a vertical angle, so we put T for 105. Looks like C is 75. Better make that a little smaller. If C is 75, anything else? Looks like this is a straight line. We have a 90-degree angle here, so that means W has to equal 90. I think we have to do some math now. 105 and A equals 180. So what's 180? Because that's a straight line. 180 minus 105. That equals 75. Perfect. So A is 75. And right here, 75 plus H equals 180. So 180, I should go on my calculator. 180 minus 75 equals 105. So H is 105. Perfect. And that's how it's done. Now we're going to do some practice problems. We have 3/4 of 16 over 1. Let's cross reduce these because of means multiply. Divided by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 16 divided by 4 is 4. 3 times 4 is 12 over 1. And if you're entering this into our Google form, the answer is 12. 12 is my answer. Let's move on to the next one. We've got 3/5 of 50. Let's cross reduce. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 50 divided by 5 is 10. 3 times 10 is 30. 1 times 1 is 1. My answer is 30. Last problem, I have 1 over 3 times 330 over 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 330 divided by 3 equals 110, because 3 times 11 is 33 plus this 0. Go ahead and multiply. 1 times 10 is 110. 1 times 1 equals 1. My answer is 110. Kids, I went a little slower today, but the video still didn't get too long. Please understand that when you go back and look at those adjacent angles and supplementary angles and vertical angles, that you realize if it's on a straight line, they all add up to 180 on a straight line. And if you're working with vertical angles, that right across the street, like I was kind of explaining, is the exact same angle. So go ahead and give yourself just the answer right there. They're kind of a fun problems to depict and break apart. So hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. Good luck with your math today.